Good evening. I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa. And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. An ICC warrant and a possible case of illegal possession of firearms. These are hounding Senator Bato de la Rosa as he remains on the run with his gun licenses now canceled.
Senator Amy Marcos smells persecution as case after case is brought up against several members of the Senate majority bloc by the day.
As for the Senate minority, it's standing its ground when it comes to remote voting at the Senate and could even take the matter to the Supreme Court.
Pananakot ba to o pang-aapi? Talagay ko lahat kami talagang pinupunteriya. Nagke-case build up na raw.
Hindi ito issue na ang administrasyon ang nagpupukol. Kung may pag-iimbestiga mang gagawin ng ombudsman, ito po ay hindi panghihimasukan ng administrasyon.
Authorities have effectively disarmed Senator Bato de la Rosa. The PNP has revoked his gun licenses and registrations just days after he was considered as an armed and dangerous fugitive. But aside from Bato, it seems that several of the Senate colleagues or his Senate colleagues are also facing criminal charges. Senator Amy Marcos claims this is all part of a crackdown on members of the current Senate majority bloc. Mobile journalist Merimon Reyes with tonight's big story.
The Philippine National Police has revoked Senator Ronald de la Rosa's right to bear firearms. This means Bato can now be charged with illegal possession of firearms if caught with guns. In the order dated Tuesday, May 26, and signed by Firearms and Explosives Office Chief Brigadier General Jose Manalad, de la Rosa's firearms license and registrations were revoked pursuant to the Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act. Section 4 of RA 10591 provides the standards and requisites for the issuance of and obtaining a license to own and possess firearms or LTOPF. Under subparagraph G, it states that the LTOPF and the firearms registration of a gun holder can be revoked or cancelled if he has a pending case punishable with no less than 2 years of imprisonment. The order was issued as De La Rosa continues to evade authorities following an ICC arrest warrant linked to his role in the Duterte drug war. Records from the PNP Firearms Office noted that De La Rosa was a holder of a Type 5 LTOPF, the highest classification for private gun ownership. This means he can own and possess more than 15 firearms. His license was originally valid until March 10, 2034. The agency disclosed that 117 assorted firearms were registered under the name of Senator Bato, and all of these should now be surrendered. Manala directed the Regional Civil Security Unit or RCSU in the Davao region to serve the formal notice of the revocation at De La Rosa's registered address in Davao City. The directive explicitly tasks RCSU 11 to facilitate the immediate confiscation of the registered firearms under De La Rosa's name. However, De La Rosa's legal counsel, Israelito Torion, argued that the police agency is misinterpreting the very law it is trying to enforce. The lawyer said the PNP confused the qualifications to acquire a license with those to strip someone of it. Torion pointed out that the FEO should read the law further. He also emphasized that De La Rosa has not been convicted by any domestic court, nor has a local judge ordered his disarming, which are criminal grounds in revoking a person's gun license. While this developed, operatives of the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group and the National Bureau of Investigation raided a house in a subdivision in Barangay Balibago, Angeles City, Pampanga early Wednesday morning. The house, allegedly owned by the uncle of Senator Robin Padilla, was believed to be a hideout of Senator De La Rosa. Authorities allegedly based their suspicion on reports that Bato may have transferred to a pickup owned by Padilla's uncle after he left the Senate on May 14. Investigators, however, found neither De La Rosa nor the pickup vehicle at their residence. And speaking of Senator Padilla, he is himself facing a criminal complaint from the PNP. The CIDG says it will be referring to the Department of Justice an obstruction of justice complaint against the senator and several others for allegedly helping De La Rosa escape. PNP CIDG Chief Police Major General Robert Morico said the agency's investigation showed that De La Rosa was not merely given a ride in Padilla's vehicle on May 14. That's only several hours after the shooting incident at the Senate on May 13. Instead, the CIDG described the incident as a highly coordinated and pre-planned escape maneuver so Senator Bato can avoid detection and escape the Senate premises. The CIDG also revealed that another vehicle allegedly acted as a security escort and backup car for the white SUV owned by Padilla, which De La Rosa boarded during the operation. Robin had earlier admitted that Bato accompanied him when leaving the Senate and that he dropped the latter off in Makati City. Padilla also maintained that he does not know De La Rosa's whereabouts and did not help his fellow Duterte supporter evade authorities since there was no warrant for De La Rosa at the time. And today, Padilla reacted to the CIDG's criminal complaint against him with a verse from the Quran. Padilla thanked Allah for keeping him. Meanwhile, Senator Amy Marcos once again blasted what she deemed is a crackdown on members of the current majority bloc. Amy claims the persecution is related to the pending impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. On top of that, the president's sister alleges that the DOJ and the Ombudsman are also building cases against all 13 majority senators. On May 26, the Ombudsman announced the looming filing of plunder charges against majority senators Jinggoy Estrada and Joel Villanueva in relation to the flood control scandal. Senator Chis Escudero is also still being investigated for alleged involvement in the same case. Senator Rodante Marcoleta is facing plunder and indirect bribery complaints for supposedly receiving 75 million pesos in cash gifts. Sibling Senators Camille and Mark Villar are being accused of market manipulation and insider trading in connection with Villar Land Holdings Corporation.
Pananakot ba to o pang-aapi? Hindi ko na maintindihan. Palibasa, hindi sila nanalo. Palagay ko lahat kami talagang pinupunteriya. As a matter of fact, maraming tumatawag, maraming nagte-text sa amin, taga DOJ, taga OMB, na sinasabi na kaming lahat, yung 13, nagke-case build up na raw. Whether this is true or not, I certainly pray that this persecution, if that is what it will be, will not proceed.
Kapatid mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
And now over at The Hague, the International Criminal Court's Office of the Prosecutor announced plans to present 60 to 70 witnesses in the Crimes Against Humanity case against former President Rodrigo Duterte. This was revealed during the first status conference in the Netherlands held today. Court documents reveal 25 to 30 individuals will testify live, while the rest will submit recorded statements to speed up the trial. The lineup features over 30 insider witnesses from the Philippine government and police forces breaking their silence on the Duterte drug war. Prosecutors want a November start date, but the defense team is pushing for January 2027 to review the massive volume of evidence. Setting the date will have to wait, though, until the former president's fitness for
very sensibly propose that the three gentlemen who examined him for the purposes of the confirmation proceedings should be re-instructed to re-examine him. And we propose to make that order hopefully either today or tomorrow.
Meantime, the court has procedural hearing continues in a closed-door session so as to protect sensitive witness protection protocols.
In a related development, the EJK Truth Commission has been launched today as an independent civilian-led body that will document cases of extrajudicial killings and related abuses here in the Philippines. It aims to establish a credible public record of EJK incidents and in Pilario for Church, Education and Institutional Reform, and Executive Director Caloy Conde for Public Documentation and Transparency. The EJK Truth Commission, which also has Cardinal Pablo David, as advisor, will conduct hearings that may be public or closed depending on survivor consent and safety.
Now let's talk about this new church and civilian-led truth body with human rights advocate Carlos Conde. Kaloy is the executive director and commissioner for public documentation and transparency of the newly launched EJK Truth Commission. Welcome to the Big Story, Kaloy.
Hi, Ces. Ladies, good evening. Thank you for having me.
Okay, now how will the fact-finding investigation be conducted?
Well, it will be methodical. That's definitely what we have in mind. We will be conducting it in a safe environment, safe place. That those who will testify will be comfortable staying in and talking to the commission. And it will be live stream if allowed by those who will testify, and we will be transparent in the production and publication of the report that will be generated by the hearing.
This is a massive task you have ahead of you. Do you have any timeline, Kaloy?
Yeah, it is indeed. Actually, massive is an understatement. The commission was envisioned to at the very least, go on for 2 years. We have not set any kind of timeline on when exactly the commission will cease to exist or when the reports are forthcoming, but we are committed to put out periodic reports at least every 6 months and come out with a full report at the end of our at the end of the commission's term. But the commission is open to extending it as the need arises, because we have to keep in mind thousands of victims of the drug war have not yet spoken, have not yet talked about what they went through, and I think these Filipinos need to be heard. Yes,
this is a commendable effort, but the record of truth commissions in the country is not really, shall I say, is bad. I mean, there have been efforts, for instance, martial law. There was no truth commission after. And then there was that truth commission that the former president Noynoy Aquino tried to establish, but was challenged. So how do you intend to, I guess, make it even-handed, transparent, and fair?
That's a fair question, Sis. I think, and I think that is on top of everyone's mind when we were discussing this, when we were talking about this. And that's precisely why, from the very beginning, keep in mind that this idea was broached. I mean, hindi lang naman ngayon. This was broached a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was very clear from the very start that it's going to be civil society. We deliberately excluded the government from all of this precisely because of all the issues before. And we want this to be independent. We want this to be transparent, and we want this to be really. We want the commission to really function as it should. No interference or any kind. As you said, it's a massive undertaking, but we believe that it's worth doing.
Tell us, Kaloy, how this idea came about. When exactly was this idea, brought to life, or when did you guys talk about it? And really, what was your main goal in the beginning?
So the immediate kind of precursor to this was a press conference that Cardinal David held in November 2025, where he and other civil society organizations, including other priests like Father Flavi, appealed to the government to set up a truth commission, and appealed to civil society to set up a truth commission, and that kind of started it. But keep in mind that the idea for the truth commission has always been pushed by civil society groups even before all of this. In fact, I remember when I was still with Human Rights Watch in 2022, we were already calling on the government, the UN, and anybody who listens to set up something like this for the victims. And so this is not something that came out just a few, a month or so ago. This has been percolating in the minds of many human rights advocates, and so we're happy that this has come true. Now, exactly what we had in mind, really, this is drawing out the testimonies of victims to center them, to try to deal with the trauma that they've been experiencing all this time since 2016. And it's really about healing, their healing, and our hope that through their stories, through the documentation, through the memorialization that will happen, that this will not happen again. And ultimately, our hope is that the government will look at this and decide to do something. I mean, I told, as I said in the press conference today, I said, we will be making it difficult for the government, whoever is in power, to continue ignoring the atrocities related to the drug war and even in the existing cases.
Perhaps not ignoring, but incapable of, handling it.
Yes.
Tama ba?
The lack of political will, the lack of political will, and I think really just the lack of framework to approach the problem. That's always been the problem. So I think, we want to be fair to whoever's in power, to the government. Some efforts are being done, but these are nearly not enough. That's why there's a need for this commission.
But will culpability be pinpointed?
Inevitably, it will be. But keep in mind that we are not a prosecutorial kind of commission. This is not a court. So after we've found credible, documented evidence of what happened, we leave it to the government or to the agencies of government to pick up from where we would leave off and then do something about those findings. It's gonna be in their hands after this.
Well, Kaloy, as you conduct your fact-finding, I understand that the gathering of testimonies won't be limited to just the survivors or the families of the victims. You also plan to speak to some authorities. But are you optimistic that there are members of the police force, law enforcement, who are willing to testify on the Duterte drug war?
Well, the thinking in the commission is that there are members of the police force, the law enforcement agencies, who were just simply following orders. And in fact, some of them may not be totally in agreement with what was happening. But they couldn't do anything because, that's part of what they were supposed to do. So what the commission would like to do is provide a space so that these law enforcers will be emboldened to approach us and to tell us what happened and to put in context all of this. It's not to exonerate them from whatever it is that they did, because they have to answer for those, but really just to also get their stories, to also get what was happening, what was going on in their minds while they were killing people. It's important to also understand that.
So, Kaloy, just to clarify, so your goal, of course, clearly, is to have a sort of public record of each and every victim's experience, and of course to remember them, because they are largely nameless and faceless to most of us, right? But do you also think, because this might, disencourage some police officers from coming forward, if one of your other goals is also to maybe dig up or accidentally fall into some evidence that could
recommend charges?
Yes.
Well, that's a fair question, but the law enforcers who are involved with this, they will have to do some reckoning of their own. We cannot proceed with any type of investigation from that angle na pirong tipong you need to be mindful of what the officers or the law enforcers would feel about this investigation. No, we are centering the investigation on the victim. And it is important that we do that. Now, the idea is kung ma-prick namin yung conscience ng law enforcers, then the better. It is their professional and personal responsibility to do the right thing, and we hope that the proceedings would be able to shed some light about what was happening and to be able to make them feel like, this is probably the moment to come out and say and spill the beans and do right by the thousands who have died in this campaign.
Kaloy, since this is a massive task, how is it being funded?
So right now, the seed money for the commission is coming from the Catholic Church and other faith-based groups. So Cardinal Ambo David and many other faith-based NGOs and groups are pitching in. The reason why we held this press conference today was to announce the existence of the commission and also to encourage, civic groups, NGOs, others to support the commission, financially or whatever. There will be an active effort on the part of the Catholic Church and those who are behind this to solicit more support. So this is the government is not involved in any of this. It's all church CSO initiative, and then down the road we intend to engage with the many non-government and human rights organizations that have been putting the issue of extrajudicial killing in the spotlight. We will engage with them. We will have audiences with them. We will talk to them about what needs to be done. We have not excluded them or anything in this morning's press conference. Our plan is to announce this first, and then later on reach out to them and come to a consensus, come to an agreement about what needs to be done. So rest assured, and that way we will be assured that support will come.
Well, Kaloy, aside from recommending charges or cases, I know one of your goals is also to recommend ways on how to help the victims and their families, possibly through reparation. Tell us the significance of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that the commission really wants to happen is to facilitate the discussion, at least at this stage, of reparation and how to do that. Now, this country, we don't have a very, I would say, significant history of reparations. I mean, the Marcos victims, they're still fighting over some of the monies, right? It hasn't really been resolved very, very significantly. And so what the commission likes to do is set down some structure, some systems on how are we able to do that. And the key aspect, I would say, aspect of this is the documentation, the verification, the archiving, the documentation, and the vetting that will happen, that the commission will do. So that's going to begin the process, we hope.
Will it be somehow be done if in the ICC a conviction is given? Can this record keeping and collection of evidence be used to get reparations from such a ruling in the international court?
That's an interesting question, okay? What we're doing has nothing to do with the ICC. The ICC has they have their own thing, okay? But what we hope, we cannot stop the ICC. We cannot stop any judicial agency in the Philippines to use our findings for their own advocacy, as long as it's for the benefit of the victims. But what we're not here to supplant the ICC or any judicial proceedings. What we're actually doing is to provide the narrative that's needed, because as you know, since 2016 onward, the narrative of the drug war has been so skewed against the victims, and that's what we want to fix.
Yeah, Kaloy.
And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you talked about accountability, and Pawi asked you about reparations, but one interesting thing is you're also after institutional reforms, which I think moving forward, we could definitely use a lot of those. Which ones are you looking at specifically as early as now?
Well, for instance, one of the commissioners, Dr. Raquel Fortun, has been very, very adamant about the need to reform the criminal justice system, and even just the way the police and the law enforcers investigate simple crimes. You know, we don't have any significant database on the deaths that are happening. reforms in how records are kept needs to be done. For instance, one of the proposals by Dr. Fortune is perhaps we should do an accounting of the Philippine Statistics Authority and go through all the death records that they have, because many of the death records are not accurate. So that's one specific reform that Dr. Fortune wants to happen, but also really to improve the capacity of law enforcers for forensic evidence-based investigation. That's one thing. And down the line, we think that reforms in terms of the drug policy, for instance, will have to happen. Reforms in the criminal justice system, our judiciary, will have to happen. Those are the things that the Commission will be looking at and will be recommending specific actions. I cannot tell you right now what those specific actions are, but based on my own work in the human rights movement for the past how many decades, we have a very broken criminal justice system that needs to be fixed as soon as possible.
All right, and finally, Kaloy, what you will be doing will stand the test of scrutiny in a court of law. It can be used eventually.
Well, you know, that's kind of a given in our discussion in what we intend to do, which is precisely why our methodology should be really, really good. The way we're approaching this is that the idea is that, again, the findings, whatever testimony that we get, will be documented, will be archived, will be memorialized, and it goes without saying, can be used, hopefully, in a court of law. And, you know, that's ultimately, that's what we want to happen for accountability to take place.
All right, we thank you for talking to us. Human rights advocate and EJK Truth Commission Executive Director, Carlos Conde. Now, this is still the big story on One News, and coming up, senators from both the majority and minority bloc are speaking out, with one side complaining about persecution while the other is crying oppression. Stay tuned. Big Story is back with breaking news. The ICC has set the trial of former President Rodrigo Duterte on November 30, 2026. The ICC's Trial Chamber 3 set this date following a status conference on the matter. We will bring you more details later. Now, in other news, Senator Amy Marcos is defending the majority bloc's proposal to allow remote voting. That defense is coming a day after a historic walkout from minority senators. The presidential sister is offended by claims from the minority, particularly Senator Erwin Tulfo, of an ulterior motive behind the change in rules. It was Senator Rodante Marcoleta who made a push for participation in plenary sessions online. The lawmaker said such will be allowed under what he called justifiable circumstances.
Inaasahan ko na mag-uusap-usap sa mga susunod na araw at sana magkasundo na, kasi hindi naman maganda itong sila na ang nagsabi ng napaka-unparliamentary na kulong na ang dalawa sa inyo. Kaya pinagpipilitan ninyo. May ganun eh. Eh hindi ba unparliamentary at offensive naman yun? Ikalawa, sila pa yung nag-walk out. Sila pa ang may tapang mag-walk out. Tama ba yun? Kaya eto nga, sana magkasundo na yung dalawang panig. Titiisin na namin sila. Tiisin na rin nila kami. Pero wag naman ganun. Pag sila, pwede. Pag kami, hindi pwede. Eh hindi naman tama yung ganun.
Recall that minority senators stormed out of the session hall last night after the majority bloc tried to railroad the amendment. Several majority senators seem at risk of arrest over various charges, mainly over alleged involvement in the flood control scandal. On our sister program Storycon, former Senate President Pauline Verzosa had this to say about Tuesday evening's tension at the upper chamber.
The majority bloc was trying to railroad this amendment, which has far-reaching implications. And this has never happened in the past. This is really abuse of discretion, the tyranny of the majority. They want to change something, they just railroad everything in disregard of parliamentary practices. If you adopt this rule, you would have a Senate president, theoretically, who would preside over the session of computers and laptops.
But Senator Marcos is standing her ground. She pointed out that some minority senators previously proposed rule amendments to cater to former Senators Laila De Lima and Sonny Trillanes, who were both detained at some point in their terms. For context, both senators were only allowed participation in deliberations and not during voting. The last time the Senate went into remote sessions and voting was during the COVID pandemic that started in 2020. For Senator Ping Lacson, there is no benefit in allowing remote voting at this time other than to favor the majority bloc. And for his part, Senate Minority Leader Tito Sotto is not ruling out a Supreme Court challenge. That is if they fail to block the majority bloc's move to allow remote voting. Meantime, speaking in Japan, where President Bongbong Marcos is on a state visit, Palace Press Officer Claire Castro says Malacanang is keeping its hands off in the latest turmoil over at the Senate.
Dati naman ay napayagan ng online voting, mga Zoom meeting, dahil meron tayong kalamidad na hinaharap noon. At sa pagkakataong ito ay wala naman tayong masasabi na anumang force majeure, calamity, na mag-justify ng mga online voting. But still, muli, ito ay nasa kanilang pagpapasya. Wala sa pagpapasya ng administrasyon, wala sa pagpapasya ng Pangulo.
And now we're joined by Acting Labor Secretary Francis Tolentino. Welcome to the Big Story, Secretary.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening to your co-anchors, ladies. Magandang gabi po sa inyo.
Now, as a former senator and majority leader, how do you feel about the turmoil at the Senate?
Well, I'm not always tuned into what's going on, but I've heard some tensions. So we should recognize the democratic space and the vitality of parliamentary debates, but it should always be anchored on decency and respect.
It has been said that the Senate is at a very low point, losing its dignity and the respect that it should be accorded to a democratic institution like it. Do you agree?
I probably cannot comment personally because most of them are my friends, but and they are honorable and respectable gentlemen and ladies, so they should know the needs and bounds of parliamentary decorum.
Of course, sanay na kayo na nagiging mainit minsan ang debate sa plenaryo. Pero saan po ba ang hangganan? What is the best way to express yung disagreement?
We have rules. You follow the rules. You follow the rules. You respect your colleague. As a parliamentarian, you work within the space of a decent chamber. So, talaga yan eh. Kailangan ni respeto sa isa't isa. I've been chairman of the Committee on Rules. I've been a majority floor leader. So, alam naman po natin yung galawan dyan. Minsan, umiinit ang ulo, pero there is a point where you have to stop. That's why we have an ethics committee to decide kung saan na yung hangganan.
Was it really against the rules to propose an amendment to the rules on the floor, even if it had not yet been tackled by the committee itself?
Well, it has to be processed by the committee. But the bottom line here is the the legal anchor of, I think, the utilization of technology. Yeah, I suggest that you take a look at the previous debates during I think that's the 18th Congress, where I was at the forefront and I talked about the constitutionality of going on Zoom, all of us. So that was during the pandemic stage. And I cited specific constitutional provisions. Even the notice given to us by the House of Representatives when they transferred their session to Batangas City in the aftermath of the Taal volcano eruption. So meron akong mga constitutional anchors noon, and nag-agree po sa akin noon kung paano gagamitin yung Zoom and the technology.
May you share with us anong position nyo doon?
Opo.
Ano po ang recommend
yung COVID yun eh. Yun yung COVID doon eh. Sabi ko noon, before the House and the Senate, they're housed in two different locations, established locations. If you transfer to another location, you have to inform the other house, the other chamber. So in-inform kami ng Senate noon. And then, ang sinabi ko noon, if you go on Zoom, lahat tayo, we will violate the Constitution because we have to inform the other chamber every time we go on Zoom. And that's not administratively practical. I was sustained. I think the rules were published. That's the reason hindi na ako umabsent doon kasi ako yung nag-propose. So I think you should look at the transcript, the debates on how it was formulated and crafted on the basis of the Constitution. Because we cannot have 24 Senates.
So
we should have only one.
Can I deduce that you are against...
No, hindi naman.
Okay.
Yung sa akin, I'm always on the basis of the Constitution. I always look at the Constitution as the citadel of whatever parliamentary events would transpire. So look at the Constitution. There is a guidance coming from the Constitution. Follow the Constitution and respect the tradition. But I am not against the debates. They have all the rights. They have all the democratic space. They're entitled to do that, but respect and decency should be maintained.
If I may, ladies, turn it over to another topic that has something to do with your fresh appointment, Secretary Tolentino. I have to get used to that. It was a big week for you. You also were in Angeles earlier. You fired a regional director of the DOLE earlier. But I wanted to ask really how you plan to make the most out of the 2 years you have left as DOLE Secretary, and what practical and achievable changes are you going to be making? Yeah.
Yes, doable. There are a lot. I intend to strengthen the labor arbiter system. We intend to put up an academy similar to the SILJA of the Supreme Court. I was chairman of the Senate Committee on Justice. We strengthened the SILJA. We have a prejudicature program for aspiring judges. So we have to do that likewise for those aspiring to be part of the labor justice system. Number two, I intend to have a similar institution like the PAO, the Public Attorney's Office, might call it the Labor Attorney's Office, to provide legal support to our indigent workers, especially those without lawyers, confronted by big companies, among others, and a lot of other things top of my mind. But let's see how it will evolve. And to support the gig economy workers, we're now referring to the motorcycle riders delivering your food even during a thunderstorm, midnight, signal number 3, etc., etc.
Secretary, a few days into your new position, may nakikita na po ba kayong challenges or issues that need the most urgent attention? Well,
the marching order is to really uphold the dignity of the working man. So it encompasses a lot of things. So ang dami pong challenges. I was, second day ko pa lang ngayon, holiday pa.
Correct.
Ang
Second day
ang
holiday
pinakamalaki,
pa.
Secretary, yung challenge ng crisis
Wages.
sa Middle East, you know, hirap na ang minimum wage
Ating magagawa.
earner na
Correct.
na
But there are a lot of
mabuhay.
things beyond my control. So within the ambit of my powers, I'm now referring to the Labor Code of the Philippines and other special laws. Doon lang po ako iikot kasi I'm no longer a legislator. Kung ano po yung dapat na batas na ipatupad, doon po tayo sa dapat na ipatupad sa ngayon sa saligang batas. Promoting industrial peace in the
And siguro, Secretary, walk us through this, this change of mindset, yung inyong transition from becoming from a lawmaker now to a law enforcer again. We know you did great as an MMDA chief, and now you will be enforcing the law again instead of being a legislator. So, kamusta po yung mindset nyo ngayon?
Medyo nagsisisi nga ako bakit na ako yung presiding officer nung na-approve yung Department of Migrant Workers. A big chunk of the functions of DOLE were transferred to the Department of Migrant Workers. So sabi ko, nawala pala tayo ng functions. But, joke lang po yun. So, galing naman po ako sa executive. I was city mayor. Long time ago, I left Tagaytay in a better place. Ganon din siguro sa MMDA. So, ganon din yung plano ko sa DOLE, lead DOLE in a good shape in terms of labor enforcement, uplifting the dignity of the common one without disrupting the flow of capital. It's a dynamic, it's a balance that hopefully we can achieve.
Sec, question. Kailan po kayo formally na inimbitahan na maging DOLE secretary? And did you expect it at all?
Yun?
Kailan ka po formally... Okay, go ahead.
Siguro pag hindi tayo naka-live, I will answer that pag hindi.
Okay,
Bakit? Meron bang
So
privilege
I intend to perform as I did during my MMDA days. So bukas maaga na uli ako sa opisina kahit walang, ewan ko, nagawa na siguro yung aircon kasi kahapon electric fan lang kami. So bukas maaga na po ako.
All right. We wish you luck in your new position.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Have a good night.
That was former Senator, now Labor Secretary Francis Tolentino.
Right, and now in other news, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources has suspended tree cutting along Quirino Avenue and Rojas Boulevard in Manila. During the Kapihan sa Manila Bay Forum this morning, DENR Acting Secretary Mitch Cuna said the temporary halt was voluntary. It is aimed at allowing further study on whether some trees can be earthballed or relocated instead of being cut. The site is part of the area where trees were said to be affected by the construction of the Southern Axis Link Expressway, or SALEX.
It pains us to also be the ones tasked. So, masakit at mabigat na tungkulin ng DNR na mag-issue ng tree cutting permits. Pero, yun po ang nasa ilalim ng batas. Tapong may gusto magputol ng puno. But this is the reality of the world we live in. Kaya nga, na-coin po yung term na sustainable development. Dahil kinikilala po natin na for our economy to grow and improve, kailangan ng development.
So sad to hear, though.
It's very upsetting. I guess that's why he had to come out and say something.
But thank you for stopping. Anyway, this is still the big story in one. Again, breaking news at this hour, the ICC has set the trial of former President Rodrigo Duterte on November 30 of this year. The ICC's Trial Chamber 3 set this date during the first status conference held in The Hague today. The Office of the Prosecutor announced plans to present 60 to 70 witnesses in the Crimes Against Humanity case against Duterte. The lineup features over 30 insider witnesses from the Philippine government and police forces. Meantime, the defense, led by British lawyer Peter Haynes, wants fresh medical examinations by the same accredited experts previously assigned to check Duterte. And moving on to another story, Muslim communities around the world observed the Feast of Sacrifice or Eid al-Adha today. In his message, President Bongbong Marcos called on Filipinos to look beyond personal desires and trust in a purpose greater than ourselves. Marcos noted that sacrifices offered with sincerity and love transform into profound strength and lasting blessings for the community. The chief executive also expressed hope that the occasion would renew the commitment of Filipinos to the values that bind the nation together.
President Marcos is currently on a 4-day state visit in Japan. Before his official diplomatic meetings, he was welcomed at the Imperial Palace by Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako. The president is set to discuss with Japanese officials, among others, partnerships on energy resilience and defense cooperation. Marcos also met with the Filipino community in Japan, touting them as the torchbearers of Philippine relations.
It is my fervent hope that you succeed in all your endeavors in your chosen careers. I urge you to make a good account of yourselves and be proud of your heritage as Filipinos. You are the torchbearers of the next 70 years of our relations with Japan.
And here are other stories making headlines this midweek, starting with the retrieval operations at a collapsed building in Angeles City, Pampanga. Interior Secretary John Vicremulia believes that some of the 16 people trapped under the rubble may still be alive. This as the Bureau of Fire Protection has shifted from rescue to retrieval operations. For Acting Labor Secretary Francis Tolentino, the building's management has clearly violated occupational safety and health standards.
Hindi dapat nagkaroon ng tulugan doon sa construction site mismo. Dapat may barracks. Pangalawa, hindi dapat kasama yung pamilya.
Meantime, the palace is unbothered by the latest SWS survey showing President Marcos hitting the lowest net satisfaction rating of his presidency. His net satisfaction plummeted from -3 in November 2025 to -15 in March 2026.
Lamang po siguro ang nakakausap ay mga taong hindi pa nahatiran or hindi pa naramdaman ang tulong ng gobyerno.
And in other news, Police Chief Jose Melencio Nartates Jr. moved 8 officers in the latest reorganization at the PNP. Among those getting new posts, Brigadier General Gonzalo Villamor Jr., who was PNP Academy Commandant of Cadets when 22 second-year cadets complained of hazing in April. He is transferred to the Personnel Holding and Accounting Unit. In total, 3 positions at the PNP Academy have already been filled.
And in another development, all luxury vehicles linked to contractor couple Curly and Sara Discaya have been sold. The negotiated sale of the 4 remaining Discaya vehicles generated 12.2 million pesos in revenues for the government. Total proceeds from the Discayas' 13 luxury cars reached 114.7 million pesos. These vehicles were confiscated last year for improper documentation.
Now, before we go, politics has reached even the corners of flip-top battles. For our big picture tonight, it's the battle between rappers M-Zite and Plaridel, which started on a humorous note. That's until the topic shifted to corruption and the war on drugs. Take a listen.
Siya ay igir, kinunsyaba niya yung leader, talagang may basbas ng presidente para magnakaw ang speaker. Kaya pala kampante ka sa gera. Tiyak na ang panalo. Malalanghap mo na ang pera. Kaya ayos lang na magpuyat at magka-eye bags. May matatanggap namang maleta.
O O kay Imelda, may mga binawing alahas. Sa inyo naman, may nakatagong bato. Speaking of bato, mga suntok mo parang bato kasi hindi pumapasok. Paano kung ikaw naman yung walang kalaban-laban? Paano pag nagkaganto? Tipong wala na sa guhit ng palad, wala na sa kalyo, kundi nasa dulo ng daliri yung kapalaran mo.
Wow.
Very powerful.
That's so hard to do.
It is.
It
It's
is.
all improv.
Yeah.
They're just
galing.
battling it out. I mean, if
Yeah.
you've ever been to a flip-top battle, it is pretty fun. Ang galing nila.
I've seen videos. Yeah. Mga ano sila? Poets.
Poets,
Yes,
actually.
it's a modern form of poetry, I
Yeah.
would say.
Huge
So have you been
following.
live?
I've been one to the QC circle. Oh, just because a friend of mine organizes the battle. So I was, but I'm
Kala ko
shocked.
sumali ka.
Hindi.
Next
Why
time,
not?
Oh my
dapat tawagin niyo si
Hindi ko yata
Shawn.
kaya. I think iba dapat yung pambato natin dito.
Si Ces.
Si Ces.
Tatawanan ko lang.
But the dramedy has been like such fodder for stand-up comedians,
Oh,
diba?
yeah.
Rappers, poets.
Galing, you're thinking on your feet.
Ang hirap na.
Sample, teka muna.
Well, it's a holiday today, so we greet our Muslim brothers and
Yes.
sisters na lang. Eid Mubarak.
Okay, all right. And on that note, that's it
Sige,
for the
say
big...
it in rap. In rap.
Okay,
Go.
Oh, sige,
And that's
mauna
it for
ka.
the big story. Minsan lang yan, ha? Oh, that's it for the big story this midweek. Thank you so much for watching.
We are back here tomorrow at 8 o'clock p.m. We will see you then.
Ayoko.
Kaya mo yan.
Voice pa rin.
Ano magawin? Bukas mag-practice ako. Kapatid, we are One News all sides all the time. Have a good night.
Yeah.